Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and today Wizards of the Coast revealed the deck list for the Guilds of Ravnica guild kits. So I compiled a visual spoiler so we can take a look at all of the contents for these 5 decks and maybe help you make a decision whether you're interested in any of these products. Now, quickly before we get started, just a fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel. Our Patreon page is linked down there. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases on Amazon, once you go through that link, we'll get a small percentage for the channel. Finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. Hopefully you can save some cash while you support us. And as always, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to all the viewers. Y'all make the channel what it is. I thank you. And let's get into it. Here's our first look at the actual product. This is what it will look like on store shelves. These are each going to retail for $19.99 a piece. They will be available at LGS's and big box stores on November 2nd. So what's included? Here's an example using the Selesnya one. You're going to get a 60 card deck. Now each of these has a featured guild leader with exclusive art just to this product. We'll take a closer look at those in a moment. You're going to get a themed guild box, 5 double-sided tokens, an insert with some information about your guild, guild sticker, guild pin, and a theme spin down die. So they do include a few different accessories here. Out of everything, I think the pins are kind of interesting just because they haven't really done anything like that in a product before. Now, before we go on to the deck list, one thing I do want to make very clear. When it comes to the cards within the 60 card deck, you're going to find cards from Guilds of Ravnica. When you see those cards, they will look exactly like the Guilds of Ravnica counterparts. However, the cards that are reprints outside of Guilds of Ravnica, which are going to be from other Ravnica sets throughout history, they will have a new set symbol. They will look unique to this product. Now, very important here, this product does not change legality of any of these cards. What was already legal in each format is going to stay legal. So just because you see Deathrite Shaman in one of these decks does not mean it's standard legal. It's still only legal in Vintage and Commander because remember, it is banned in Modern and Legacy. Maybe that's a bad example, but anything that was legal before is still legal now. Nothing's changing because of this product. On your right, you see a token that we just saw on the last slide, but it was really small. So here's a better look at it. And on the left, we get one more token that has never been printed before. Now, all the other tokens that we're going to see in this product have been used before, apparently, but these two are brand new. Let's begin with the Boros deck. And one last thing before we get into the individual cards. What I did for the photos was, if it's from Guilds of Ravnica, I got a photo of a card from Guilds of Ravnica. If it was one of the new cards that has been reprinted and I had a picture of it that I was able to find from Wizards, I posted it. Some of them are a little fuzzy, unfortunately. But if I didn't have any photo of the card that's being reprinted, then I just went with the last printing of the card. So that's what you're going to see as we go through. So the Boros deck, there's nothing surprising with any of these decks. If you're familiar with the guilds, you kind of know what these are going to do. Boros is aggressive, it wants to go wide, it wants to beat down, and that's exactly what you're going to find in this box. Let's begin with the creatures. Blade Instructor from Guilds of Ravnica. Boros Elite, you're going to see a lot of Battalion here. As a matter of fact, Battalion feels like it's a bigger part of this deck than Mentor is, but there's plenty of Mentor too. Daring Skyjack. Light of the Legion from Guilds of Ravnica. Sunhome Stalwart, another one of the new cards. Bomber Corps. Frenzied Goblin. Legion Loyalist. This is a great reprint here, and they actually did a pretty good job with some key reprints. You'll notice that as we go through the video. Legion War Boss from Guilds of Ravnica. Wojek Bodyguard, also from Guilds. Agris Kost, Wojek Veteran. I always like the lore behind this character. I thought the original Ravnica had a pretty cool backstory. Aurelia the War Leader. She's the featured guild leader, so she has unique and brand new art. Boros Swiftblade. You're going to get 2 copies of that. Firemane Angel. Firemane Avenger. Hammer Dropper from Guilds. Rasia Boros Archangel. 2 copies of Sky Knight Legionnaire, one of the reprints in Guilds of Ravnica. Spark Trooper. Sunhome Guildmage, 2 copies back when the Guildmages didn't tap. Swiftblade Vindicator from Guilds of Ravnica. Boros Reckoner, big standard card back in its day. Sorceries. Gird for Battle, of course, from Guilds of Ravnica. Also from that set, Sworn Companions. Bright Flame is here. Instance. Boros Charm. Lightning Helix, little fuzzy picture, but it's there. Martial Glory. Master Warcraft. Artifacts. Boros Keyrune. 2 copies of Boros Signet. You're going to see 2 copies of the corresponding signets in each one. Lands. 4 copies of Boros Garrison, and again, you'll see 4 copies of the corresponding bounce lands in each one of these. 4 copies of Boros Guildgate. I'm assuming you're going to see the Guilds of Ravnica version here. Not sure if they're going to do 2 of each or just 4 of one. I guess we'll find out. And last card before we get to our basic lands, Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion. But there's actually something special about the basic lands as well. They have really interesting guild designs. Here's a version of Plains that you'll only get in this Boros deck. 8 copies, though. And here's the Boros Mountain. 8 copies of that. Let's move on to the Dimir deck. So Dimir fans, some of them anyway, were disappointed when they saw that Dimir is no longer milling in Guilds of Ravnica, or at least not really milling that much. Well, if you're a fan of Dimir Mill, I got the product for you. Dimir is getting back to its roots here. You're going to see that as we go through. Basically, this is a control deck that's trying to gum up the ground and control the game while they mill out the opponent. Let's look at the creatures. Wall of Mist, this was reprinted in Guilds of Ravnica. Another defender to slow the game down, Barrier of Bones. Blood Operative from Guilds of Ravnica's here. Netherborn Phalanx. Circo Dimir Lobotomist. Now we're going to start getting into some heavy mill stuff. Consuming Aberration. Dimir Doppelganger. Dinrova Horror. Etrata the Silencer. So not all the feature guild leaders are from older sets. This is actually from Guilds of Ravnica and again has brand new art. Lazav Dimir Mastermind. Mirko Vask, Mind Drinker. Moroi. Nightveil Predator from Guilds of Ravnica. Zedek, Lord of Secrets. Dimir Guildmage, 2 copies of this. Now remember back not only when Guildmages didn't tap, but also when they were hybrid. Good times. Nightveil Spectre makes an appearance here. Sorceries. Stolen Identity. Mephitic Vapors from Guilds of Ravnica. 2 copies of Ribbons of Night. Call of the Nightwing. Glimpse the Unthinkable, very popular card among mill players. Notion Rain from Guilds of Ravnica. Instance. Disdainful Stroke, of course that was reprinted in Guilds of Ravnica. Mission Briefing from Guilds, that's actually a pretty interesting inclusion. Syncopate. Telling Time. Unexplained Disappearance from Guilds of Ravnica. Last Gasp. Price of Fame from Guilds. Dimir Charm. Warped Physique. And one split card. It's one of the new ones. Discovery and Dispersal. Just one artifact, but it is 2 copies of Dimir Signet. Lands. 4 copies of Dimir Aqueduct. And 4 copies of Dimir Guildgate. You get 8 copies of the special Dimir Island. And 8 copies of the Dimir Swamp. Alright, let's move on to the Golgari deck. Again, no surprises here. Golgari's using the graveyard. There's some light reanimation. There's even some dredge here, which is kind of interesting. And you're just going to see, basically, the graveyard being used as a resource throughout the game for advantage. Creatures. Plague Crafter from Guilds of Ravnica. Slum Reaper. Stinkweed Imp. That's a classic dredge card. Deadbridge Goliath. Scavenge was actually a fun mechanic too, I remember from Return to Ravnica. 2 copies of Elves of Deep Shadow. Hatchery Spider, that's a rare from Guilds of Ravnica. Charnel Troll, another rare from Guilds. Glowspore Shaman from Guilds of Ravnica as well. And Golgari Finebroker from the same set. Graveshell Scarab. Izoni, Thousand Eye, so this again is the legendary featured guild leader. Another card from Guilds of Ravnica with brand new art. Jarad, Golgari Lichlord. 2 copies of Corozda Guild Mage. Lotleth Troll, I remember that from Standard back in its day. Rhizome Lurcher from Guilds of Ravnica. Savra, Queen of the Golgari. Shambling Shell. Sisters of Stone Death. Everybody's favorite Shaman, Deathrite Shaman. You can still play it in Vintage and Commander, remember. Sorceries. Vigor Mortis. Drown in Filth. Gaze of Granite. Treasured Find. Instance. 2 copies of Dark Blast. Necrotic Wound from Guilds of Ravnica. Abrupt Decay, very nice reprint there, happy to see that. Golgari Charm. Grizzly Salvage. Putrefy. Split card. Just one, Status Statue, and of course this is also from Guilds of Ravnica. Enchantment. Deadbridge Chant. I remember playing that in Limited. I don't remember if it was good for me, but I remember playing it. Artifact. Again, you get 2 signets. Of course, Golgari Signet this time. Lands. 4 copies of Golgari Guildgate. 4 copies of Golgari Rot Farm. 8 copies of the Golgari Swamp. And 8 copies of the Golgari Forest. Izzet, of course, Izzet is very spell-centric. You're going to see a lot of instants and sorceries here. Cards that complement instants and sorceries play well with them. Again, nothing surprising from the Izzet Guild here. For creatures, we have Electrostatic Field, of course, one of the new cards from Guilds of Ravnica. Another one with Erratic Cyclops, and of course, both of those cards play very well with instants and sorceries. 2 copies of Gutter Snipe. Crackling Drake from Guilds of Ravnica. Gelectrode. Goblin Electromancer, of course this is being reprinted in Guilds of Ravnica. Hypersonic Dragon. 2 copies of Nivix Guild Mage. Niv Mizzet the Firemine, this is the featured guild leader, and of course we got brand new art again. I really think that art is stunning, especially with the cityscape behind him. Tabor and Lumia. 2 copies of We Dragonauts. This is another card that was reprinted in Guilds of Ravnica. Jin Illuminatus. Sorceries. Quasi-Duplicate from Guilds of Ravnica. Direct Current, also from the new set. Goblin Rally. Mizium Mortars, very powerful card. I used to really like the overload spells. Shattering Spree. Not really sure what kind of Shattering Spree you can go on if you're playing these against each other. I mean, I guess you could blow up some signets. Beacon Bolt from Guilds of Ravnica. Invoke the Firemind. Stitch in Time. Instance. Chemist's Insight from Guilds. Radical Idea, also from Guilds. Thunderheads. Char. Electrickery. Pyromatics. Cerebral Vortex. Electrolyze. Izzet Charm. Enchantment, just one. Firemind's Research from Guilds of Ravnica. And you get a split card. This is actually one of the older ones, though, Turn and Burn, which has Fuse. You can play both sides at once if you want to. That's something the new ones don't do. Artifacts, of course, you guessed it. 2 copies of Izzet Signet. Lands. 4 copies of Izzet Boilerworks. 4 copies of Izzet Guildgate. And 8 copies of the Izzet Island. and 8 of the Isn't Mountain. And finally, Selesnya, all about overwhelming your opponent with creatures, going wide, pumping those creatures, making tokens, and you're going to see all of that in this deck. Creatures? Venerated Loxodon from Guilds of Ravnica. Pretty cool Convoke card, and of course Convoke will be a reoccurring theme, as you can imagine. Siege Worm, this was most recently reprinted in Guilds of Ravnica. Armada Worm, a lot of power toughness when you play this card. Center Healer. Conclave Cavalier from Guilds of Ravnica. Very persistent card. Loxodon Hierarch. 2 copies of Selesnya Evangel. Tolsimir Wolfblood. I really like this reprint, actually. First time the card's been reprinted, and I do see people play this in Commander occasionally. Tristani Selesnya's Voice, another one of the guild leaders with unique art. 2 copies Watchwolf. Dryad Militant. 2 copies Selesnya Guildmage. Vernati Shieldmate from Guilds of Ravnica. Sorceries. Hour of Reckoning. Call of the Conclave. Camaraderie from the new set. Instance. 2 copies of Devouring Light. Bounty of Might. Gather Courage. 2 copies of Scatter the Seeds. I remember playing that in Limited, even in Modern Masters 2015. That was quite good. Advent of the Worm. Selesnya Charm. Sundering Growth. Enchantments? These colors will have a few extras. Conclave Tribunal, though. Fantastic removal card from Guilds of Ravnica. Glare of Subdual, another really good enchantment. Pollen Bright Wings. Growing Ranks, great token generation card. Privileged Position. I'm sure when they put this card in this product, it wasn't worth what it is worth now. It spiked a lot over the last few weeks because of the Commander 2018 Adaptive Enchantment deck. A lot of people were drawn towards this card. It's really great in that deck, really great in other Commander builds too. So this is a super sweet inclusion. I'm sure it will go down in value now since it's getting another printing, but still, this is worth the price of the deck itself. Artifact. 2 copies of Selesnya Signet. Lands. Grove of the Guardian. 4 copies of Selesnya Guildgate. 4 copies of Selesnya Sanctuary. 8 copies of the Selesnya Plains. And 8 copies of the Selesnya Forest. Alright, so those are the deck lists. Here's my final thoughts on the product. I think it's for 2 different types of players. One is the player that's really into Ravnica. Someone like myself. I love that particular environment. I love the lore. I've played with all the old sets. It's a nice trip down memory lane. I get to try out all the old mechanics again, and you're going to have a lot of fond memories with some of these cards, I think. So there's a nostalgic piece here that certain players are going to enjoy. Now, as far as the decks themselves, they're not hyper complicated. Obviously, they're mostly singleton decks. There's a few 2-ofs and a few 4-ofs when it comes to the land here or there. But for the most part, they're relatively simple builds. They might be fun to casually duel for a while with friends and then maybe just break them down for parts or what have you. The other player I think this is for that new player, maybe not brand new player, because I think the Planeswalker deck is going to be a little easier for brand new players. These cards do have some complicated mechanics sprinkled in there. However, if you're trying to move up from Planeswalker decks to the next level, I think this is a pretty good product. Or maybe you never played Magic before, but you played other card games and you don't think you need the Planeswalker deck as an entry-level product. You can probably move right into this and be fine. So again, it's a teaching tool. It's a tool to get involved in the game. So this type of product, even though I will say it does have some good reprints sprinkled in, especially Selesnya with Privileged Position, I don't think you're buying this for those reprints. Now, they're a nice bonus. If you pick up one of these decks and you happen to net a Privileged Position or an Abrupt Decay out of the deal, hey, why not? At least makes you feel like your money is well spent, that you're getting something of value out of it, and I think that's important. But they're not oozing with value necessarily. I mean, if you really want an Abrupt Decay, you can just go and buy one on the secondary market. It's not going to cost as much as the deck, right? So if you just want those singles, I would say buy those singles as opposed to buying this product. This is really, again, about having a short-term fun experience, whether it's a learning experience or just kind of a fun nostalgic experience. I want to try these out. I think they could be fun because of the type of player I am. I like the nostalgia. so I'll give them a try, but these aren't for everybody. If you're a more serious player, maybe you play Standard, maybe you're a serious Commander player, there's not going to be as much here for you. So it's a product that is meant to bring new people into the game, and I think that's very important. And those products aren't for all of us, but if those products didn't exist, the game wouldn't exist in 7 or 8 years as people move on and start going on to other hobbies and such. If you don't replenish with new people behind it, you got a problem on your hands. And Wizards is very focused on that, as we've seen with a lot of products recently. And this is just another one of those. So hopefully that makes sense and has helped you decide whether this is something you want to buy or not. With that being said, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.